Welcome back to the online classes. So last class we studied about the introduction of biomolecules and chemical analysis of biomolecules, in which acid solubility test and ash analysis we studied. So in ash analysis, a dried living tissue was burned for chemical analysis of inorganic elements and inorganic compounds. So in this class, we are going to compare the elements present in the non-living with the living. Let us see that. So for living, I am taking the example of human body. For non-living, I am taking the example of earth crust. Okay. So in another column, I'll write the elements. Okay. So we are going to compare the elements present in the living with the non-living. So the first element I am going to take is hydrogen. So that formula is H. So in case of earth crust, the percentage of hydrogen is 0.14%. So in case of human body, it is 0.5%. Okay. So it is more in case of living. The next is carbon. So in earth crust, it is 0.03%. In case of human body, it is 18.5%. It is also more in case of living. The next one is oxygen. So oxygen in earth crust is 46.6%. So whereas in case of living, it is 65%. It is also more in case of living. The next is nitrogen. So nitrogen in case of earth crust it is found in a very little amount. So whereas in case of living, it is 3.3%. So it is also found in more concentration in case of living. Okay. As we have seen in the first class itself, so these four elements contributes around 97 to 99% of the living organisms. The next one is sulfur. So sulfur in case of earth crust it is 0.03%, whereas in case of living it is 0.3%. It is also found in a large amount in case of human body. The next, I'll take up sodium. Na. So in case of earth crust, the sodium found is around, it is 2.8. So in case of living, it is 0.2. So here you can see that sodium is found in a higher concentration in case of non-living. The next is calcium. So calcium in non-living is 3.6%. In living it is 1.5%. Okay. So here the amount of the calcium is found in higher concentration in non-living. Next is magnesium. Magnesium in non-living it is 2.1%, whereas in living is 0.1%. So it is also in higher concentration in non-living. The next one is silica. Silica concentration is around 27.7% in case of non-living. So in case of living, it is negligible. Okay. So silica is also found in higher concentration in case of non-living. So what we can mention here is, some of the elements are required by the living organisms in a large amount. Some of the elements are required by the living organisms in traces. Okay. So this is regarding the elements found in living and non-living. Next, we are going to discuss about metabolites. So first we'll discuss about the definition of metabolite. What is a metabolite? So metabolites are the chemical compounds formed during cellular metabolism. So metabolites are the chemical compounds formed during cellular metabolism. So then what is metabolism? I mentioned that the chemicals formed during cellular metabolism are called as metabolites. Then what is a metabolism? Metabolism is nothing but, so all the reactions which occurs in a living organism is called as metabolism. Metabolism is nothing but what? So all the reactions occurring in living organisms, we are calling it as metabolism. So when we consider the reactions, so either there may be a formation of chemicals or breakdown of chemicals. Okay. So in the reaction, so there may be formation of chemicals may take place or breakdown of chemicals may take place. Okay. So the formation of chemicals, we are calling it as anabolism. So breakdown of chemicals, we are calling it as catabolism. Okay. So the chemicals formed during anabolism or catabolism, they are called as what? Metabolites. Is it clear? The next. So in metabolites also, there are two types. Okay. So the types of metabolites under that. So there are two types. They are primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. So the first one is primary metabolite and the second one is secondary metabolites. Okay. So first we'll discuss about the primary metabolites. Okay. So what are primary metabolites? So the products or chemicals formed during normal metabolism. Okay. So primary metabolites are the products or chemicals formed during normal metabolism. Okay. Normal metabolism, we are calling it as primary metabolites. Which are those? For example, carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, amino acids are the example. So examples are carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, amino acids, nucleic acids, etc. are the some of the examples for primary metabolites. Next, where these primary metabolites are produced? So they are produced by the plants, animals, even by the microorganisms. Okay. So primary metabolites are produced by the plants, animals, and microorganisms. Is it clear? Next. So the function of primary metabolites are specific or it is well understood. See, for example, when we are taking the example of nucleic acid. So nucleic acid is nothing but the DNA and RNA. We are calling it as a nucleic acid. We all know that DNA acts as a genetic material which carries the information from one generation to the another generation. So if you take the example of lipids. So lipid forms the most of the membranous structures. So proteins. So they are involved in muscle formation or even they are present in the blood. So amino acids. So they are the building blocks of proteins. Carbohydrates which provides energy. So here, so primary metabolites will have a specific function or their functions are well understood. Okay. So primary metabolites have a specific function or their functions are well understood. Okay, so this is regarding the primary metabolites. Next, let us see about secondary metabolite. So, secondary metabolites are, so they are special products. They are produced during the changed metabolism. Okay, secondary metabolites are, they are the special products produced during the changed metabolism. Okay, changed metabolism, we are calling it as secondary metabolites. So, some of the examples for secondary metabolites are alkaloids like carotenoids, pigments, okay, toxins, rubber, gum are the example for secondary metabolites. So, examples like alkaloids, pigments, toxins, rubber, gum. So these are the examples for secondary metabolites. Okay. The next is, so where these secondary metabolites are produced? These secondary metabolites are produced only in some families of plants. Okay. Only certain plants produces these secondary metabolites. And even we can see the microorganisms producing the secondary metabolite. So they are produced by the some of the plants, and microorganisms are capable of producing the secondary metabolites. Then coming to the function. So the function of secondary metabolites are not well understood. Why means, see for example, you can take the pigments, like one of the example is carotenoid. So you can find a carotenoid. So in case of carrot, it is a reddish orange pigment. So the pigment function is, it is supposed to attract the insect for pollination or animals for dispersal of seeds. But this carotenoid is present in the root part. So in the root, we are not knowing what is the role played by the carotenoid in that particular plant. Okay, so like this, so most of them like alkaloid, rubber and all, so their functions are not well understood. Okay, the secondary metabolites functions are not well understood. The next, if you see the quantity, so primary metabolites are produced in large quantity and secondary metabolites are produced in traces. So primary are produced in large quantity and secondary are produced in traces. Okay, and even so some of the secondary metabolites are useful so that extraction also will be done. So extraction of secondary metabolites are more costlier when compared to the primary. Okay, so this is regarding the primary metabolites and secondary metabolites. Let us see some more examples of the secondary metabolites. Okay, so secondary metabolites. So first one I'll take up with the pigment. So some of the secondary metabolites, and that the first one is the pigment, like carotenoids and anthocyanins. So these are some of the examples for pigment. The next is alkaloid. So alkaloid example, morphine, codeine, caffeine, nicotine are some of the example for alkaloids. Next, terpenoids. Example, monoterpenes, diterpenes. The next is essential oils. Essential oil, example, lemongrass oil, Next, toxin. So toxin like abrin, ricin. Okay. The next is lectins. Lectins, one of the example is concanavalin. A is one of the example for lectins. The next drugs like vinblastine, curcumin are the examples. Next, polymer substances like rubber, gum, etc. Okay. So whereas the pigments, as I told you, so carotenoids are found in case of carrot, a root part it is found, but we are not knowing the role of the pigments. Okay. So whereas alkaloid, for example, we know that caffeine found in the coffee as well as in the tea. According to some of the scientists, so it is the waste product produced by the plant. Okay. So but it is useful to the mankind. But so the caffeine role in case of the particular plant is not well understood. The next one is nicotine. We know that nicotine is found in case of tobacco. So in case of tobacco plant, so some of the scientists they believe that it acts as a insect repellent, but it is not clearly understood. Then like you can take the example of drugs like vinblastine. So it is produced from the Vinca rosea. So in that Vinca rosea, it is not playing any particular role, but it has been used by mankind for cancer treatment. Then curcumin. So it is found in case of turmeric. So which prevents some of the heart diseases and cancer. Okay. So rubber. For example, rubber we know that it is impermeable to gases as well as water. So in rubber producing plant, so if it is impermeable to water and gases, how the plants can respire? Okay, like that. So the functions are not well understood. So secondary metabolites, wherever they are present, their functions are not well understood, but they are useful for the mankind by different ways. So the biological significance of secondary metabolites. So for they are used means, so they are used in case of preparation of perfumes. So biological significance of secondary metabolites, they are used in the preparation of perfumes, soaps, and even they are used as a flavoring agent in case of food and drinks. Okay, and even it is used as a folk remedies. Okay, so it is used as a drug, and even it is used as a dye stuff. Okay, so these are some of the examples for secondary metabolites and their biological significance. Okay, next, so in this chapter, so we are going to discuss the biomolecules and their biological significance one by one. So before going to that, let us see the composition of cell. So when you see the composition of cell, so water forms around 70 to 90% of the cell is made up of water. The next is proteins. So proteins constitute around 10 to 15% of the cell. Next is nucleic acid. They form around 5 to 7% of the cell. The next is carbohydrates. So they form around 3% of the cell. The next is lipids. So lipids form around 2% of the cell. Then ions. So ions form around 1% of the cell. So this is the composition of the cell. So let us start with the the role of biomolecules. Okay, so the first biomolecule we are going to discuss is carbohydrates. Okay, so the first biomolecule we are going to discuss is carbohydrate. So before studying the biomolecules, we are supposed to know the meaning of polymer, because while explaining the biomolecules, we are going to make use of the term polymer and monomer. What is the meaning of polymer? Poly means many, mer means parts. Okay, so polymer is a large molecule which is made up of many small units which are similar. Okay, so polymer is a large molecule which is made up of many small units. Many small units. These small units we are calling it as monomers. And these units are similar. Okay, is it clear? So polymer means, whereas poly means many, mer means parts. So the large molecule which is made up of many smaller units. So here the smaller units are called as monomers. Okay. So carbohydrate. Carbohydrates are, they are the organic compounds which are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. Okay, so they are the organic compounds which are made up of carbon, hydrogen and oxygen. So in carbohydrates, the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen is as that of the water. That is 2:1. So the ratio of hydrogen and oxygen is 2:1 as that of the water. The next is the general formula of carbohydrates. The general formula is CnH2nOn. Okay, the formula is CnH2nOn. So whereas the value of N will be equal to 3 or more than that. Okay, so the value of N will be equal to 3 or more than that. Next, let us define the carbohydrate. Okay, so these carbohydrates are also called as saccharides. They are also called as saccharides. So this term is originated from the Greek term called saccharon.